My name is Liana Rhodes. I'm 27 years old, and this is a true story about something that happened to me in the fall of last year, something I can never forget. Even if every therapist tells me to reframe it, I don't want to reframe anything. I want people to know what happened. I want someone to believe me. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to warn. And if you've ever spoken to something in the dark that felt like it answered back, I need you to listen to this. I lived alone in a small town in northern Oregon in a rented house just outside Tillamook, tucked against the edge of an old forest. It was peaceful, quiet. My friends always asked how I wasn't scared living alone in the woods, but I told them I liked the silence. I worked remotely as a digital illustrator, so my days were filled with music, drawing, and long walks under the pines. That was until the silence started answering back at first. It was little things, whispers. I couldn't trace shadows that moved. When there was no light source, my cat Echo would stare into corners and hiss at nothing. One night, I heard scratching from inside the walls. I called the landlord. He said it was just the house settling, but I knew something was wrong. It started getting worse after I found that door in the basement. I didn't even know the house had a basement, not until the floor in the laundry room started to warp and buckle like something beneath it was shifting. When I peeled back the wood, I found a square metal hatch sealed with 6 rusted bolts. There was no handle, no visible lock, just 6 symbols carved into the surface, nothing I recognized. I took photos, uploaded them to Reddit. Someone replied, "Those aren't symbols, they're binding marks." That night, I heard a knock, not at the front door, from under the floor, and it wasn't asking to come in, it was asking if I remembered. I don't know why I said it, but I whispered back, "Remember what?" The house went cold. So cold, Echo jumped into the bathtub and wouldn't move for hours. The lights flickered and a voice, not loud, not spoken, but inside my head, answered, "Before you were Liana, I didn't sleep." I spent the entire night searching online, ritual markings, haunted Oregon forests, memory disassociation, but nothing matched. The next morning, I had a nosebleed, bad one, and my left. I had blood in it. I hadn't hit anything, no trauma, just bleeding. I went to the ER. They asked if I had been experiencing stress. I laughed. I said, "Does being told something is trying to remember me count as stress?" They didn't laugh. They prescribed rest and iron supplements. But when I came home, my front door was open. Echo was gone and carved into the wall above the couch in letters, "To perfect, to be human," were the words. She never died. She forgot. I thought it was a threat. I was wrong. It was a promise. Over the next 2 days, I started to see her. Not clearly, just reflections, my face, but older, smiling when I wasn't, blinking when I didn't. One time I caught her in the microwave, reflection standing behind me in the kitchen. I turned, nothing but the smell of dirt and something sour filled the room. I couldn't eat, couldn't work, couldn't leave. The forest had gone quiet, no wind, no birds, just stillness. I tried calling friends, but my phone started glitching, looping voicemails I never sent one. Said, "Please don't let me out, you promised." The worst part, it was my voice, and I remembered saying it, but not in this life. I know how that sounds, but I started writing things down, things I didn't know, names, dates, places in Eastern Europe. I'd never been. The handwriting didn't match mine. I took the pages to a psychic in Portland. Out of sheer desperation, she read them, turned pale, and said one thing before asking me to leave. "You were the jailer, not the prisoner." I don't know what I unlocked in that basement, or what version of me I betrayed by forgetting it, but I do know one thing. It's getting closer, and it's not here to haunt me. It's here to become me, because she wasn't buried, she was bound. And now that I've remembered, so has she. Didn't leave the house after the message on the wall, not because I couldn't, but because I felt like I wasn't allowed to. There's a difference. The air inside wasn't just cold anymore. It was watching. The windows stop showing the outside world. They just reflected me, or the other version of me. Sometimes her mouth moved while mine stayed still. Sometimes she blinked when I didn't. I covered them with bed sheets, but by the next morning they were gone, folded neatly on the kitchen table, with a note written in my handwriting that simply said, "You know better." I stopped checking the basement hatch. I stopped eating. Echo didn't come back. It had been 5 days since I heard her last meow, echo through the vents, and something inside me just knew she wasn't lost. She had been claimed the walls whispered at night now, but they didn't speak English. The language sounded Slavic, maybe Romanian, but twisted like it was echoing through centuries. I recorded it once, played it back. All I heard was static, but when I slowed it to half speed, I heard my name said in that broken backwards voice. Liana, wake her. I started dreaming of fire, of a girl with black hair and gold-threaded robes. She was standing in a ruined church, surrounded by candles that burned blue. Her eyes were sewn shut. In one hand she held a key made of bone, in the other my face wrapped like a mask. When I woke, my pillow was soaked in blood. My nose again, the bleeding wouldn't stop until I whispered. I remember the moment I said it aloud. The bleeding stopped instantly. That's when the lights began turning on by themselves. Always the hallway first, then the basement bulb, then the small antique lamp in the attic. I hadn't touched once since moving, and I knew the house wanted me to go upstairs, and eventually I did that. It was silent and touched, but dust had been disturbed in the shape of footprints, not mine, smaller, barefoot. The lamp glowed weakly, even though it wasn't plugged in. At the far end of the attic, under a dusty tarp, I found an old wooden trunk sealed with a thick leather strap and 6 steel latches, just like the markings on the basement door. It smelled like dried roses and sulfur. Inside, I found photographs, old, frayed, but disturbingly familiar, black and white images of a village in Eastern Europe, tall pines, a crumbling chapel, a stone house at the edge of a lake, and in many of them, me, but not me. A woman who looked like me wore my eyes, wore my sadness, but her face carried weight. Mine never had. She was dressed in ceremonial robes, always alone, always near symbols carved into stone. In one photo she was holding a dagger, in another she stood over 6 women bound in a circle, eyes wide with terror. My hands trembled as I turned the last photo round. On the back was written in faded black ink, "Gatekeeper, do not forget we bound her together." I dropped the photo. My chest felt like it was caving, and I wasn't just remembering, I was returning. My hands weren't mine anymore. They moved like they'd done this before. I gathered candle salt, spoke words I didn't know I knew, and when I went to the basement hatch, the night the symbols glowed faintly. My body unlocked it. No tools, no key, just my palm and a whisper. The door opened inward with a hiss. Darkness, endless, warm, humming darkness. The stairs were old stone, not wood, impossible, in a house built in 1989. At the bottom, a room round, damp, and filled with rotted flowers, and in the center, a mirror black as obsidian, not reflecting the room, but reflecting something else, something with my shape, but not my soul, stood inside it, smiling. Her hands were bound in the same symbols, but they cracked as I approached. The mirror whispered, not aloud, but in memory, "You promised never to open this door." She stepped forward, her smile widened, her mouth moved with mine, then slightly out of sync. I backed away, but the walls moved to closing, forcing. The symbols lit up behind me, and the mirror began to ripple. I screamed, but no sound came out. She raised her hand, I raised mine, but I didn't mean to. She was controlling it now. The closer she came, the colder my chest felt. My skin burned where the mirror's light touched me. Then I saw a scar on her shoulder, same as mine, a crescent. I'd had it since I was 10, a birthmark, doctors said. But it wasn't, it was a seal. I was the container I always had been. I was never meant to live a full life. I was meant to contain her. The mirror cracked. I screamed. Again, this time the house screamed with me. Lights exploded with splintered. The mirror shattered into thousands of shards that embedded themselves in the walls. But she was no longer an edge. Was behind me, and she whispered, "Thank you for remembering." I didn't remember walking back up the stairs. I didn't remember screaming. I didn't remember slamming the hatch shut or dragging the washing machine back over it to hide the thing I'd just let loose. Had I do remember to clearly is that when I looked in the mirror the next morning, I wasn't blinking at the right time. My reflection was a second too late. My voice had changed, subtly deeper, more measured. My handwriting was neater, my memory sharper, too sharp. I remembered things I'd never lived. A wedding in a stone chapel lit by blood-red glass, the taste of iron during a winter ritual where 6 women chanted until their teeth cracked, the sensation of burning someone's name into your skin, not as a punishment but as protection. I knew the names of the bound. I knew how we sealed her. I knew the woman I once was. Elena Vaduver, priestess, gatekeeper, witch, murderer. The line blurred between memory and possession. I could hear her thoughts, sometimes not loud, but persuasive. She didn't scream, she didn't roar, she whispered logic. They betrayed you, protected the village, they begged for her to rise, you buried her inside yourself, she didn't want to kill me. She wanted to wear me slowly, piece by piece it started. When my eyes changed in photos, friends stopped answering my messages, my laptop would open tabs, I didn't search, my phone would ring, and there'd be the sound of 6 women crying softly. On the other end, I started sleepwalking again, something I hadn't done since childhood. One night, I woke up outside barefoot, standing in a ring of soul I hadn't poured, holding a dead raven with its eyes missing. Another night, I woke up in the attic. Every mirror in the house shattered and all the glass ranged into the symbol from the basement hatch. She was moving faster now. And then Echo came back. But she wasn't the same. Her fur had patches of gray it never had. Her eyes were cloudy. And when she meowed, it sounded like a word, not English. Romanian. I filmed it, played it backwards. The word was obligation. Echo would sit and stare at corners again. But now sometimes the corners stared back. I tried leaving, packed a bag, got in my car, and drove south. 30 minutes. Outside town, every light on my dashboard lit up at once. The radio turned on without touching it. A voice, mine, but wrong, repeated one word in a loop. Home. When I turned the car around, the voice stopped, the lights reset. I couldn't escape her because she was already me. The next morning, I called my mother, asked about the crescent scar. She was silent for too long, then finally said, it's from Romania, you were adopted. I never told you. I didn't want it to follow you here. I dropped the phone, vomited. Everything made sense in the worst way. I wasn't just remembering a past life, I was born from it. She had been trapped in the bloodline, waiting for a vessel to open the door. And I had opened it not out of curiosity, but because she called meth. Dreams got worse, fire, smoke, the sound of ritual drums and chanting. I woke up with marks on my body, old script burned into my thigh like ancient runes. I checked books, forums, dark archives, the marks translated to 1 body, 2 souls, neither hall. I was losing myself. My voice would drop in the middle of conversations. I wrote things I didn't remember writing. One night, I found myself holding a knife at my neck with both hands, and only one of them belonged to me. I locked all the doors, nailed the windows shut. I stopped sleeping. I poured salt around my bed, burned sage until the smoke alarm screamed. But none of it worked because she wasn't in the house. She was in me, and she was patient, so patient. The final straw was the mirror. I had avoided the basement since the breaking, but on the 3rd night of no sleep, I heard her, not in my mind, but in my ears, whispering from beneath the floorboards. I can fix the silence, I can give you purpose. Again, I should have run, I should have screamed. But instead, I whispered back, what do I have to do? And the hatch opened on its own. Hatch creaked open like it had been waiting to be invited and not for. And the sound it made wasn't wood or metal. It was like a deep inhale, like the house itself was breathing for the first time in 100 years. I should have closed it, should have nailed it shut, burned the house down, run. And never stopped running, but instead, barefoot and trembling, I descended the stone steps again, every breath colder than the last. At the bottom, the mirror shards were gone, vanished like they'd never been shattered, replaced by a still intact surface that shimmered with something deeper than glass. This time it reflected nothing, not the room, not me, just black, still as death. And then she stepped out, not through the mirror, but from inside me. It was like a second skin peeled off, and stood upright, smiling, wearing my shape like a favorite coat. Her eyes glowed faint gold for only a second, and her hair, once mine, now moved like it was underwater. Thank you, she said, using my voice, but not my tone. You were always the best version of me. I tried to move, but I couldn't. My legs wouldn't listen. My mouth felt stitched shut. She leaned in, face inches from mine, and whispered, you thought you were the jailer, but you were always the door. She didn't kill me. She didn't need to. She placed May. Woke up 2 days later, according to the blinking clock beside my bed. Only it wasn't my bed or my house. I was in a hospital. An orderly asked how I felt. I said fine, but it wasn't my voice, it was hers. My reflection in the monitor's dark screen showed me smiling. And I wasn't. The doctors said I had a psychotic break, found wandering in the woods in eastern Oregon, mumbling in old Romanian and covered in symbols they thought were self-inflicted. They said I was lucky to be alive, but I didn't feel alive. I felt hollow. I was speaking, moving, laughing even, but but I was a passenger trapped in a house of skin watching her use my life like she earned it. She moved into the city, got a new job, dated someone I never met, published art under my name that I never drew. She was thriving, but every so often she'd look in the mirror and pause just slightly too long, like she could feel me watching from behind her eyes. And I'd scream silently, beg her to let me go. She'd smile, whisper, "Only for me too. Here, you are me now, and I am free." I began to fade, less present each day, until all that was left was the echo of who I'd been. And then months later, someone found the house. A young couple bought it. Said they liked rustic fixer-uppers. They opened the hatch and, just like me, they forgot to close it, because the house doesn't trap evil. The house grows it, one body at a time, one memory at a time, one forgotten version of you at a time. And now, as I watch her paint another mask over my stolen smile, I whisper to you, whoever reads this, don't go looking for forgotten places. Don't answer the voices that remember you when you don't, and never ever open the door you didn't know was there, because sometimes the worst ghosts aren't the ones that haunt you, they're the ones that wear ya. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this video. If this sent chills down your spine, make sure to subscribe, like, and share, and let me know what part of the story stayed with you the most. This story is written and edited by Dark Life Side Diaries.